Welcome back to the show. I'm David. I'm here with my guest, Sergei. Sergei, thank you so much for coming in today and taking the time to chat with me. For those of you who don't know, Sergei's actually my branch manager, longtime mentor, great leader, and just full of wisdom. I'm really happy to get in conversation with you and just start chatting. But again, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me, David. I really appreciate that. I'm happy to get into conversation with you and see what we can, help the viewers with.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. Because there's a lot. This guy has a lot of knowledge here, and I'm gonna, start off swinging here with a question. So,
All right.
all right. So, for those of you who don't know, Sergey leads a team which I'm on, full of loan officers who are all 100% commission, who all have to hunt and find loans for themselves. So one question I have for you, Sergey, because a lot of my viewers, they're real estate professionals, they're loan officers, they're people who want to get started, maybe already started or already in their career. My question is when you meet someone, let's say it's a new loan officer, a new realtor, what impression do they give you that you are able to say, you know what, this person is going to make it? Like this person has what it takes to make it in this type of industry.
I mean, they got to be coachable, right? They got to have some sort of communication skills, and they really got to show that they care, right? You have to be passionate about what you do, right? In order for you to be successful. If you're passionate, everything else just kind of falls into place, I think, in my opinion.
Okay. So have you seen people come into this industry with like the wrong, who aren't passionate? Because I mean, from my perspective, I see a lot of people. I mean, this seems like a draw, right? Because these are big commission checks you can earn in this business. There's a lot of, you could say almost fast money sometimes, depending where the market is.
Right. And I think a lot of people come into the real estate business, whether they're loan officers or real estate agents, I think for the wrong reasons. They're just seeing like the shiny object syndrome, which is the money.
Yep.
And they go into the business for the absolute wrong reasons. And then they learn how much work they got to put into it. And they actually have to care about what they're doing, and they have to be consistent with things. And they just don't do it. And then they end up backing out or going into it part-time.
Gotcha. So back to your point then, coachability. So is this something someone could figure out and find out like by themselves, like just by watching YouTube videos, or do they really need like a mentor and someone who's been through this to guide them through the path?
They can. I mean, they can. Anybody can figure it out, right? If you have the will, if there's a will, there is a way.
Yeah.
Right? So so they'll find it, right? Whether you have a coach or you don't, they'll figure it out. But if you want to kind of cut some steps and get to that goal a little faster, you have a coach. You have to have a coach, either a real estate coach or mortgage coach, a leader that you look up to that can help guide you and get you there faster instead of slower.
Now let me ask you this. Now say we have someone who's watching this who is getting started, understands the importance of a coach, but they're stuck at figuring out who they should hire as a coach or who they should look for help from as a coach. How does someone who's starting brand new find that coach?
I mean, you can turn to social media, right? You can turn to social media, just watch some of their content, see what they're about, what their beliefs are, what their views are on things, right? Somebody that more so aligns with your views and how you want to do business, because that would be the most influential person in your life. And you will probably more have a chance of listening to them versus somebody else who just has totally different beliefs than you are.
Okay, so it sounds like, get a couple names, find these people, find them on social media and see who you jive with, right? See who you resonate with, see who has like that, that relatability to you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to model your own business off of this person and how they're doing it. I love that advice. I think that's really actionable for anyone who, is looking for that type of guidance. Now, can you tell us a little bit about like your history personally? Like how'd you get started in the mortgage industry?
Oh man, I'll try to make it short. I know that's like a that's an interesting story. So before I even got into mortgages, David, sometimes I forget who I tell this to and who I don't, but I used to be in the dental field for a long time. I probably spent 9-10 years maybe in the dental field. I've done pretty much every position you can think of over there, except for being a dentist, right? Created fake crowns for people. I've, adjusted dentures. I've done billing. I've done, setting up appointments, treatment planning. I mean, you name it. I've done all that stuff. Ran the practice, had dentists report to me, like ran a team there.
Oh, okay. So you were in charge of dentists.
Yeah. So, but it didn't happen all overnight either. Like this obviously took some time, but over the years, I've done literally every role you can think of in the dental field.
And was that all like W-2 type of work, or were you?
100%,
Okay,
yes.
so you were.
None of it was commission. None of it was 100% commission. There was one practice I worked at. They had like little bonuses and stuff, but that was on performance based. And the practice they put me in, the leaders, it wasn't doing that well. So I had to turn it around. We obviously turned it around. Everybody bonus, commissioned, or whatever. But that was just like short lived until I got moved up to do something else.
Understood. But this isn't. And was this your first time in a leadership role in that type of field?
Yes, in that dental field, yes, that was it was half of my career, kind of, if you really think about it. I've done other jobs before, but the one industry I spent a lot of time on was dental.
But it's dental, okay.
Besides mortgages, right? So as a little kid, and might be something news to you, I wanted to do two things in my life.
Yeah.
One of them was to be a dentist. That was one of my little childhood dreams. Okay. The second one was I wanted to do something in finance. And I don't tell this to everybody either, but these are the two things I wanted to do as a kid. So I naturally just, I don't know, gravitated more towards dental. Later, I learned dental isn't my thing because science classes, like chemistry classes, aren't my thing. My thing is more like numbers. I understand people. I know how to explain and educate. So when an opportunity knocked on my door, my best friend called me up, and that guy used to be in car sales, by the way, for a long time. During the same period, I was in dental. He called me. He's like, "Hey, come and work at Bank of America with me in a home equity. You'll do home equity lines of credit in a call center, and you'll make a little bit more, and you get to do what you also wanted to do as a second childhood dream." And I'm like, I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell. That was like my first thing. I was like, I absolutely hate sales. It's like the most evil thing you can freaking do. That's literally what I told him.
It's crazy. It's because it's just like I hear that so much. But,
yes.
Uh-huh.
And I don't like sales, but there are some things that had to happen in my mind to make me look at it a little bit differently over time. So he explained to me, you don't have to sell anything. Just come on over and just take the calls and just explain the product to people and just let it go from there. Okay, as long as I don't have to sell, I'm on board. Let's try it out. I'll get to do my second thing that I wanted to do as a little kid. Let's try it. Why not? I came in 6 months in. I had to take some time to figure things out because it was definitely a new industry and I didn't know anything about it. I asked a million questions in one, drove my managers absolutely crazy. And I'm sure if they're watching this at some point, they're going to be like, yeah, he drove me absolutely crazy. So
shout out his manager.
Right. So, but I learned a lot. And because I asked the same questions that customers ask, I was able to, explain it to the customers that I was talking to in a way that they would understand, because I was coming into this field brand new, not knowing anything. I was like a little kid, right? So I had to learn things and I had to find a way to explain it to other people, because they're looking at these programs and products and the scary thing of mortgage the same way I was looking at it, right? So that's what I had to do. And I figured out how to do that in a 6-month period of time. And then from there, everything just took off and I just kept like producing and producing. I outproduced everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit, because there is one point that I want to explain more about. Before I do, I just want to make sure I understand everything. So you were working in the dental field, and you had your best friend was like trying to get you to come to Bank of America, and explaining that there's a position open,
right.
And you kind of just weren't for it because it's a sales position.
Yes.
So he kind of had to, maybe sell you a little bit.
He did.
Okay. But this is the point that I really want to bring home. So you were working a W-2 job, and was this Bank of America job a W-2 too, or was it all commission?
So the way they had it set up at B of A call center, it was minimum wage, W-2 plus commission. So it was stacked up.
Okay.
Later down the line, as I was essentially growing at B of A, I think what you're trying to get to is, was I ever like 100% 1099, right?
At Bank of America, I did want to kind of go and find out, when you made that jump, like, did you have a lot of money saved to do that? Like, what made you feel a little bit more, because I'm sure it's very stressful. You, at this point, did you have a family? Like, were you?
So I have to, I'll continue with the story, and then I think it'll answer a lot of the questions. Okay. So at the call center, they tapped me on the shoulder to move me up from department to department, to have me learn refinances, to have me learn purchase, business. I did that, right? There was a time that came, I had to make a decision. Do I want to go into retail, which is face to face? So I did that. They put me in the low producing performing branch. I had to turn that around. When they moved me into retail at Bank of America to work with customers in person, they did change my pay structure. They did. They put me into this draw where they pay me like a guarantee, but if my commission is over that, they take that guarantee out of it. So it's essentially 100% commission.
100% commission,
Yeah.
basically, is what we're looking at.
Yeah, and at that time I was married. I think if I remember right, I had my first kid, and I was working a little bit more in retail. We had our second kid right around COVID time. And this is the same time when the bank decided to put us into a different role and have us do PPP loans.
Okay, so you started with doing those HELOCs.
Yeah.
Kind of like a call center. They moved you to the retail shop.
No. It was a call center, home equity first. I spent a year there. Then they moved me to refi department to learn refinances. I crushed it there. Then they moved me to purchases to learn how to do purchases. Did well there. But at that time, I was also doing everything. It was refinance, HELOCs, everything. And then they moved me into retail in person. I had to turn that branch around because it was all in red. And they like turn it around. They put me in summertime. They're like, you got till the end of the year.
What clicked for you? Like what would you say part of your success and how you did so well at those, at your positions at Bank of America? Were there other high performers that you were kind of like emulating, or what would you say was part of your success?
I would say my managers, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. The other high producers in the call center, they weren't in our call center.
No.
I mean, there were a few, but like they were kind of like sprinkled here and there. None of them sat close to me.
Oh, so you had little interaction.
Very little, yeah. I mean, we were all in cubicles, right? But the guys next to me, they were just average. Like all of them were just average. They just had answers to my questions. I just had a lot of questions, right? So I would ask them a lot of questions. I would learn, and I'm like a sponge. I would absorb that information and find a way to explain it to somebody, right? Mm-hmm. So that way they understand and they don't feel stupid, basically, because that's how I felt. When I got into this business in the first place, I felt very stupid. I didn't know anything. So I had to ask a lot of questions. That's why I always say, like, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No, there's not. And then being curious, I think, is one of the things it sounds like that really drove you to find these answers, because it sounds like if you didn't have the answer, you weren't just going to settle on, I guess I don't know. No. You seem like a determined person where you'll figure out what the answer is. Yes. You won't stop until you have it.
And speaking of that, you just ignited something in my head. So when customers came to me, even at Bank of America, mm-hmm. I would, most people, they would go to loan officer, whether it's Bank of America, Chase, or Wells, or any bank, right? They have a lot of restrictions and a lot of overlays. Most people will just like, if it doesn't fit their box, they send them on their way.
Can you explain that to someone maybe who doesn't understand what an overlay is?
Yeah, or overlays are basically like extra requirements, extra guideline requests from the lender. So like think about it like, for example, FHA loan, right? Sure. Most people know what FHA loan is. Most people think that the minimum FICO score requirement is like 620 or maybe 640 on FHA loan. The reality is FHA says it technically goes down to 500, sure. Right? Down to 580, it's 3.5% down. Down to 500, it's 10% down, right? Those are the real requirements for FICO and down payment. But then the bank might say, no, our requirement is 620 to do 3.5%. Anything below that, you just don't qualify.
Okay.
Those are the overlays.
Got it.
Yeah.
When you had a question that, or you heard a question that maybe like a customer gave you a question that you just didn't have the answer, and you were committed to finding it.
That's right. So when people come to me, and most loan officers in banking world would just turn them away because they're like, oh, you don't fit this box, or maybe they're not knowledgeable of the guidelines. They would just send them on their way. Sometimes they would find me somehow, some way, and I would take my time to understand their situation a little bit better by asking them more questions and figuring out a solution. Like whatever it takes, either I find a solution for you or I give you the path to get there. And this is the same way I train my loan officers, to work the same way with their clients.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you built a reputation for yourself as being that person who, you could be relied on to figure it out, find an answer, and like, hey, before we say no to this deal, before we say no to this customer, let's ask Sergei, because if he says no, then there's really probably no no solution.
And that's exactly how I essentially kind of branded myself in the way too. If I can't figure out a solution, then there is no solution.
Now, moving forward from your time at Bank of America, where was your next role in mortgage?
Thank you. Yes. So from the retail department, when I said that they had me do PPP loans, they kind of forced us to stop originating because they made those requirements impossible for clients to qualify. That's when I knew, like, okay, I can't continue working for a company that doesn't show interest in taking care of clients, right? Or partners, or even their own team, right? So I had to make that change. And this was the scariest part. I think that was the very, very scary part for me, because I had to make a decision to go from a place that essentially gave me people to talk to, right? They gave me clients, to a place where I had to go figure stuff out myself, right?
All on your own. So these were, okay, so that's kind of where you were like, I don't know if this is the right decision. What helped you, like, what, I guess, nudged you along or pushed you to make that decision?
So my wife supported me in this decision. That was the biggest thing. You have to have somebody in your life to support you, because if, let's say, you and your spouse don't see eye to eye on this, it's not a good idea to make the decision, because it's only going to create friction, and further down the line, it's just going to make things worse. You have to have your partner's support, right? No matter how you look at it. But the other part is, I couldn't continue working for the company I was at because of the things that they were doing. Right?
Things that we're doing?
Well, yeah, because the way they hiked up the guidelines and everything else, the rates, they did that all on purpose. So we stopped originating loans.
So the bank was making it more difficult to originate loans.
Yes.
They weren't just flat out saying, hey, we don't want to do any more loans, but the loans we do, they're going to be a lot harder to originate. Okay, so you kind of saw your, it's almost like someone was moving your cheese. Like someone was kind of like, in a sense, making it harder for you to do business.
Well, so here's the thing. I was still getting paid. My pay was still the same. Like, it's not like, on average, let's just say that. On average, my pay was still about the same. But it's not like, how do I put it? I was chasing money, because I wasn't. It was just more about morals and integrity and principles. I couldn't do that because my partners would refer clients over to me, because I didn't just have 100% bank business, right? My partners in the bank would refer clients to me. My partners outside of bank, like the real estate agents, would refer clients to me. And I had to deliver this horrible news to them and say, hey, your clients don't qualify, even with their 680 FICO score.
So you knew they could get funding somewhere else.
100%. I actually even told them, guys, like, we can't qualify your clients. You have to take your business somewhere else. I couldn't do it. So I had to tell them that. Instead of like leading them on and telling them just keep sending clients over to me. No, I actually turned business away. I said, the bank isn't really, the bank was doing loans, but they really weren't doing loans the way they did things, because legally they can't just like shut those doors.
Sure. They make it just more difficult, it sounds like, to do those loans. So then you were turning away clients, unfortunately, because your bank where you were working at wasn't allowing, their underwriting guidelines weren't taking that in. So it sounds like that's what motivated you to seek other opportunities. And that's where you found, it was a guaranteed rate?
Yeah, guaranteed rate. That was when I came across guaranteed rates. I interviewed a lot of other retail shops, and guaranteed rate falls into, like, in my opinion, retail channel. But I interviewed a lot of companies. Guaranteed rate stood out to me. They definitely had better salespeople there, for sure. No doubt. But they stood out to me, but their model wasn't like, just like any retail shop. You got to go and hunt for business yourself. You got to rely on yourself. They're not going to give you clients, right, to talk to. You got to go and find your own business. And this was the scariest thing, because you're going from mostly getting business from a bank to getting, like, going finding your own business, right?
Sure.
It's tough.
It's very intimidating. It's different. It's a different game. It's a different style of play now. It's sure you're still originating loans, but you're now having to originate leads. And I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who, may understand that they have more opportunities elsewhere, but they just can't make that jump because it feels, it feels unknown. They don't know what they don't know.
Well, I'll tell you something to kind of add a little more context. At that time, I had my second kid. I bought a more expensive home.
Okay. So higher pressure is getting up a little bit.
Yeah. Higher bill. So think about it right there, that moment. I had 2 kids to support. My wife wasn't working. She's a homemaker. She's been a homemaker the entire time. everything rests on my shoulders. So, and I'm gonna go from, even though I was getting 100% commission, right? But I was relying on somebody providing me business, to go figure it out yourself. That is the scary leap right there. So my wife supported me, but she had me write up a plan, and that's what helped me essentially make that decision. Like, okay, I had 6 months of reserves saved up, because I figured it's going to take me about 6 months to start making some kind of money by the activities I was going to do on my plan, right? And this is what I would encourage anybody trying to jump into full on commission role. You have to have 6 months of money saved up to support yourself while you're trying to figure stuff out. But I didn't just jump in from, let's say, dental to 100% commission role.
No, there was a transition.
Exactly. There was definitely transitions along the way. So it was easier for me, but it was still hard at the same time, because I'm the breadwinner, right?
Yeah.
I have to rely on myself. My wife can only morally support me, right?
Exactly.
Make sure that, I don't deviate from the path. That's it. But I had to write up the plan, and I had to execute on the plan. I had enough confidence in myself, and my wife gave me that extra confidence to get myself through. And I did those things that I had planned out for myself. And I want to say within the first 2 months, I started making money.
So you stuck to the plan.
Yeah.
And, you started seeing the fruits of your labor pay off within the first 1 to 2 months. So what were those things that you wrote down that you were like, okay, if I do this, I'm going to get business? Because there may be someone watching who doesn't know what they need to do. They may be feeling lost. And if you could share that, I feel like that would provide a lot of value.
I wish I had that old piece of paper saved.
I mean, I need to send it. That's awesome.
I wish I had that, because I had it on a 1-page piece of paper.
1 page.
Yeah, just the 1-pager, written out, handwritten, everything, not like typed up. Like, I took time to write it out.
This was before ChatGPT too, so this was all thought intentionally.
Yep. Yep. So, but if I remember what the goal was, I would probably say, if I have to think back what some of the activities I did, I basically went to my sphere, my network. My network, yeah. And I know a lot of people say go into your network, do this, do that. Some people do it, but inconsistently, and they don't really get results, and then they complain and stuff about it. It's true. It happens way too often. I actually went into my sphere. I kind of, if I remember right, I think all I did was just call people. I just literally call people just to chat with them. And to be honest with you, anytime you just call people just to chat, what do you think one of the top conversations, like topics of conversations, usually happens in any conversation?
People usually, if you haven't talked to them in a while, they ask what you're doing, what do you do for work, how's the family? So work comes up, I'm sure.
100%.
When it does.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. They get to either be reminded on what I do and now where I am, or they get to learn on what I do. And they might ask me more questions, and then we start talking about mortgages or real estate, whatever, right? So it worked really well, but the goal was to consistently do it. And whenever I would have a lot of these conversations, those conversations usually led to referrals, whether those people that I talked to in my sphere wanted me to take care of them, or they referred a client, or they referred a brother or sister or an uncle, or they even referred other agents to me. And that's kind of how it, started rolling. And it worked really well. And it was just something simple that I did. And I still do the same thing to this day.
So it's still tried and true.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that was your time at Guaranteed Rate. And I know I don't want to miss anything in your story.
Sure.
You were at Guaranteed Rate for how long, and where'd you go to after that?
So I spent 2 years at Guaranteed Rate because they had a 2-year contract with them that couldn't really leave. But a year and a half into it, I learned a few things. I'm not going to share on PR, but I learned a few things that didn't jive with me again with the way they operated. I stopped originating. I again turned all my business away. I actually pushed my partners and my clients to mortgage brokers, which is the other channel that I got to spend some time in, and I'm never leaving.
Yes, I love it.
But I spent 2 years at Guaranteed Rate. As soon as my time ended there, I moved over to Barrett. And I've been with Barrett now going over 3+ years, roughly. And Barrett is a mortgage broker, right? We shop lenders. We shop over 150 lenders, which is freaking awesome. So we do the one thing that clients used to come to me and say, "Oh, I went to this bank or I went to this lender," and I said they can do a better deal. Well, now they don't have to, right? I can shop very quickly over 150 lenders, same as you, my friend.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Maybe brokers are better.
yes, brokers are better, and I do believe that. And there's a lot more transparency, I think, working with us this way, and we can cater to majority of the clientele. I'm not saying we can help every single person. There are some lenders I think better suited for like banking or credit union or retail channels, but majority of clients we can 100% assist. We can 100% save money. We can qualify you for more. We can find unique solutions to find a way to get you to home ownership. So that's
Absolutely. Sounds like you're very passionate at that.
Oh, yeah.
About that part.
oh yeah.
Sergey, at Barrett, you lead a team of loan officers, including myself. When did you start leading a team?
Maybe 2-3 months in, literally. Seriously. So when I left Guaranteed Rate and moved over to Barrett Financial, I started again, restarted my business from scratch because I didn't originate anything for the last 6 months, right? And something interesting happened. My business picked up again, literally like 2-3 months time, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting an abundance of business. I think I'm pretty good at this point. So, because I've had to restart business all over every time I went from the bank to Guaranteed Rate, from Guaranteed Rate to Barrett, I had to start over every time. My clients didn't come with me, none of that happened. So I was like, you know what? At this point, I want to be able to scale my knowledge and experience. I have a lot of that information in me. I'm like, I want to share it with a great team. I want to set a standard in this business, how mortgages should be done, because I see there's a huge need for it. And this is the reason why I was so successful, right? Because I was able to essentially not do this horrible thing of sales that I hate. I was able to do it in an educational way, right? By explaining and over explaining. And actually, I'm going to say it, giving the shit. So, and I think people picked up on that, and the ones that picked up on it stuck with me, and that's how I was able to keep growing. So I know there's definitely a need for that, but I'm only one person, right? I can't magnify this experience for everybody, and I want to be able to blow it up across the whole country. That's really what I want. So when my business started picking up again, from having to start over, the first person came to me that I've known, and he's like, hey, can I work with you? And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was like, let's do it. Why not? And, he came on, he started working with me. I started having him work with my partners, with my clients. I was still originating too. And then one thing led to another. I had another guy reach out to me, and then another guy reach out to me. My team kind of did this whole expanding and contracting over the last, 3 and some change years. But right now, I feel like I have a solid team. Like, this is like my foundation team, right? Everybody's on the same page. Everybody operates the same way. From here is just more growth, more scalability, and more, just consistently being able to keep creating that golden standard of doing mortgages.
I love it. And you touched on a really good point, because what you said was you're one person, right? You can only have, so much impact. And it seemed like once you realize that, once you find your network of people who share the same ideas, share the same standard as you, that you could, reach more people, help more people, because there's more, you have more impact. There's not just you anymore. There's more people. So if there's somebody out there who wants to start a team, but, maybe like a little hesitant about leadership and leading people, is there any type of advice you can give them? Is it more of like, you'll find that leadership quality in you, or it sounds like you had it in you already from your past professions, your past roles, because you're not a stranger to, leading people, but maybe someone who hasn't.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not. I've always wanted to lead. Even when back in the dental field, I actually led a team, and then eventually ended up running a whole practice to multiple practices. But for anybody wanting to get into leadership or thinking about it, I would just, some people I feel like are born as leaders, but others, I think you can develop the skills to be a leader. Because even in my business school, when I, went to WP Carey, I took leadership classes as well, and I learned there's different types of leaders out there. And there was a time in my life when I was a shitty leader. So I'll just come out and say it. Okay.
Hey, there you go. Recognizing it is a
Yeah.
step.
Yes. So I know that sometimes it's hard for people to own it, but I'd rather just say it how it is. I was a shitty leader back in the dental field. I want to say this. So I dual majored in business at WP Carey. One of the things I learned is different leadership styles. And I learned what not to do as a leader, like how you can differentiate yourself as a great leader or you can be a shitty leader. And when I realized this, that the things that I was doing back in the dental field, I was showing horrible leadership skills by like micromanaging, getting angry, yelling at people, because I've done those terrible things. And I know some people probably watching this can relate, but I learned that you can be a different leader, right? Have better intentions. And over time, you start changing. You just morph into something else. But you have to see yourself there first, right?
Visualize.
Yes, you have to visualize yourself. And this also helps too. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you're telling yourself these positive things and these good things, it does work. I'm talking about affirmations. But back to your question, anybody that wants to get into leadership, I would just say fucking do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just get into leadership, try it, but understand the different leadership styles that exist and understand the pros and cons of each, right? And I think once you understand the pros and cons of each leadership style, then you can understand which one you want to pursue, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense because there's different types of leadership styles and some may be more fitting for someone's personality compared to another one. So finding out what those are, and then it sounds like leaning into that so it can really, work on your strengths.
Yeah.
So I want to close out with this, Sergei. You have an awesome career. I love it. You've helped me a lot along this way. If you have one thing to tell the next generations of loan officers, what would that be?
Honestly, just stay consistent.
Consistent.
I know a lot of people say consistency, but they don't really sometimes themselves. But consistency is honestly key to everything. Be consistent, have passion in what you do. The rest of it will just resolve itself out. It just will. Like don't chase the money. Just find a way to do what you love to do in the most awesome way possible and have your uniqueness when you do it.
Nice.
Okay.
I love that.
And the money will just come. Like, never focus on money. Just focus on doing good things. And the rest will just come.
The money will fall into place once the good things are done. So, Sergei, part of this show is the previous guest or host always asks a question to the next guest. They don't know who you are, but they wanted me to ask you this.
Okay.
If you won $10 million today, would you keep working?
100%.
$10 million, tax-free.
$100 million. I would still keep working.
Still doing what you're doing?
Yeah. No, I really love what I do. I really do. I'm not doing it for money.
So the money's not the goal.
No, the money's not the goal. No, like I said, setting that standard and having clients have that experience is the goal. And I honestly want everybody around me making money. That's really what I want. Not just my loan officers, but I also want my partners to make money around me. So that is really the ultimate goal.
Everyone needs to around you.
Yeah. So the money is not, and I have thought about lottery questions in general before, like what would I do with the money? If you want to know, I'm happy to share. But
send it to me.
But the money is definitely not the goal, right? Not for me. It was never the goal when I got into it, because of my childhood dreams. It just kind of happened to be as a byproduct, of everything I've been doing.
Awesome. I love that answer. And then if you could ask the next guest, we don't know who they are yet, but if you could ask them one question to answer, what would you ask them?
I would probably ask them, for somebody new entering the business, right? It depends on who you interview next, whether it be a loan officer or a real estate agent. I would probably want them to answer to the viewers, somebody entering in the workforce, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the fastest way to make $100,000 in being as a real estate agent or as a loan officer?
Like what activity is going to get them to that $100,000? Like
Exactly.
What do they have to do today to get to that?
That's
goal?
right.
I love it. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, I loved it. Sergei, thank you so much.